All right, guys. So we worked on login and register page, and now we are back to the main home page, and now we'll start designing this page. All right. So whatever we have on this home page, we are going to get rid of everything. Save it. All right. Now inside this, if you remember, I told you in the demo that we are going to use a custom title view. We are not going to use this thing. Okay. For that, what we'll do here, we'll use shell dot title view. Then inside this, we are going to have our buttons, those three buttons, and the name of our application. So here I'm going to have a grid with two columns. First column will have our name of the application, and then second column at the very end we'll have our buttons. So column definition, we'll have auto, whatever space the text needs, we'll have it here, and then simply star. Alright. Now the first, the name of the application. So we'll say grid dot column 0, and text would be our app name. Alright. Now if I save it, so the shell dot title view, sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time we need to rerun this to get the effects working in here. So what I'll do, we'll first try to design it, then we'll rerun the application, and then we'll see if something needs to be changed. All right. Then after this, we are going to have a second thing where we are going to have three buttons. Okay. So for that thing, we can have maybe again a grid with columns. We have three buttons. So we'll simply have column definition with star, star, star. Okay. Then first one, we are going to have our image with source, and this source is going to be plus.png. I already added this icon in one of the previous parts if you remember. Okay, then let's have height and width set here. So we'll set 20, or maybe, yeah, let's have 20, and width request 20. Save it. This is going to be grid dot column 0. So save it. Then I'm going to make copy of this column 1 and column 2. And this first grid, this is going to be grid dot column 1. Right. Now by default, what it will do, it will have this name here. Okay, we can see something. You can see this label grid dot column 0 text. Okay, it is not coming because IntelliSense is working. That is the hot reload is working. If you remember, we have set the text color of label to this main primary color. So the text is of primary color and background is also with the same color. That's why we are not able to see it. Here what we'll do, we'll say text color as white. Now we can see this. Great. Now we need to move these things to the very right. Okay. Before that, we'll have other icons. So we have bal.png and I think user.png. If I save it, we can see these three different buttons. Now we need to move these buttons to the very right. So we have two options. First, on the second grid, we can say horizontal options as end, or we have one more option. What we can do, we can simply have in this main grid, we can leave this uh, column with star, and then again one more column with auto, and on this buttons grid we'll simply say 2 0 1 2. Yes, if you see what this is doing, auto, that means whatever space it needs, it will take this space. Then star, that means whatever remaining space, so we have all the remaining space. Then we are saying auto for the last column, so grid 2, so whatever space it can take, it can take. Then the center section, that is handled by this star. This is also one way by which we can have this. this kind of behavior here. All right. Now in this grid where we have our columns, we need to have some spacing between these. We'll say column spacing and let's have 20. Save it and we have this spacing. Now we need also want to have some margin from the right side. On this grid only, what we can have either padding or margin. Or fine, let's have margin. So 0 from left, 0 from top, 15 from right, and 0 from bottom. Save it. Now we have nice margin as well. Now we'll change this MAUI social, this name of our application. First thing, we'll set font size, a bigger font size, let's say 25. Then we'll say font attributes as bold. Then we'll say vertical options at center. Now everything is in center. Right? After this, this grid is also in center, we can see, but let's still have vertical option at center to fix if there is anything which is not. Now these icons colors, these are not looking good. We need to make these white the way we have this MAUI social. So for this, what we can use tint color behavior here. So we have already installed the community toolkit.maui package, if you remember. We are going to add namespace for this. Let's say toolkit equals. So here we are going to use this Maui toolkit namespace. We named this toolkit only. Then we are going to add the behavior on these images. We'll say image dot behaviors. Inside this, we can set icon tint color behavior. Then here we can set tint color to white. Save it, and now we can see this. But now we are going to need this at a lot of places. For example, these two things, and we might need it at other places as well. So it's better to have this also as a custom control. Okay. All right. So what I am going to do, let's stop this and we are going to create a new control in our controls folder. We have these controls. In here, I'm going to create a new class. We don't need XAML for this as well. We'll simply say, let's say white image cs, and this is going to be public class subclass of image, so that we can have all the properties, events, everything from image. And here inside the constructor, what we can do, we can simply check if we already defined any tint color behavior. Tint color behavior. So here what we'll say, we have this behaviors collection from image. This is what we are setting in here, image.behaviors. So we are accessing this behaviors here. Then we'll check if we have any first or default. Let's say P is icon tint color behavior from community toolkit.maui.behaviors. If tint color is equals null, if it is not null, that means we already defined it. So for example, we have defined this thing, so in that case we'll simply skip our white image related logic. If that is not defined, then we'll say tint color behavior equals new icon tint color behavior. Then in here we are going to set tint color. This is going to be our colors.white. Then we are going to add this tint color behavior back to the behaviors collection. We'll simply say behaviors add tint color behavior. Okay, so this is our white image control. It simply checks if we have defined icon tint color behavior in the markup already. In this case, we'll simply skip it. If we have not added it, we'll simply Create a new tint color behavior with tint color as white, and we'll add it back to the behaviors. This is same thing what we are doing here. We are simply adding behavior with tint color behavior with this tint color white. All right. So save it. Now this is inside controls. So namespace is controls. So we need to add this namespace. XMLNS controls. We'll say controls from our application. Save it. Now if we see here, I'm going to comment this out for your reference. Right. Here we can use white image. On this we can access everything. So we'll say grid.column0 and other properties. Margin, not margin, these things, right? Let me copy these things. So I'll copy this, paste this, everything will work same, and we'll simply close this. So now we are good with this control image. Controls white image. Same thing we'll do for both of these. So the second one is going to be bell and grid.column1. This one is going to be grid.column2, and the image source is going to be user.png. Save everything. Let's run the app. Now we should see these white color. Counter btn does not exist because we removed everything. So let's get rid of this method in the home page code behind. It was being used on the default template home page. Right, get started, login, and we can see these three buttons. All right. So now our title view is ready. Now we'll work on the functionality later. But right now, after title view, we can start working on this main section, this main screen. Okay. All right. Now, before going to that, we also have that notification indicator, if you remember in the demo. Let's work on that as well. That will be dynamically shown or hidden, but right now we just need to design that. So in the second thing, this well.png, this image, what we are going to do instead of direct image control, we are going to have a grid here. Inside that grid, we are going to have this control white image. And now this grid dot column 1, this will go to this grid. Save it. It should be same. No change at all. Now, we are not setting any row definition, column definition on this grid so that it is going to be one row, one column. And inside one row, one column, whatever items we defined, those items are got stacked on top of each other on Z axis. What I mean is, after this white image, I am going to add one that black circle. For that, we are going to use ellipse control here. Okay. Ellipse, we are going to say fill black. Right now, if I do this only, we can see this. If you see, it is actually on top of bell image. Now what we'll do, we'll set height and width. So we'll say height request 10 and width request 10. Save it. Now you can see it is correctly inside the center. Now what we need it to vertically on the top. So we'll say vertical options as start, right? And we want it to horizontally at the end. Horizontal options as end. Cool. Save it. Now our this ellipse is also ready, which is a kind of indicator. Now this will be shown and hidden dynamically. I can show you if you want. Yeah, maybe we will work on it later because we need some piece of observable property to check if we have any notification right now or not, and that will work later when we'll work on view models. Right now, let's keep this design and we are okay. Now let's start working on this center section, the main home section.